Blind spots. We all have them. A blind spot is something that can be seen, but we don't always have the clarity to see it ourselves. This is something that comes up when we work with subject matter experts. We go to them thinking we know what we want, we know the solution. They listen and they can either give us a version of what we are asking for or guide us to see what we need. This happens because we have blind spots of things we don't yet know, or the perspective of things that they see in us that we can't see in ourselves. Today, I want to talk about a blind spot that many people have. I've been guilty of it myself. It's a place where I gave away my power for far too long because I didn't know I had an option. When it comes to writing our own stories, I had to remember that we have the power to choose. This idea can stir both excitement and discomfort when realizing we've had more choices in our lives than we ever knew, sometimes acknowledging that we can choose or could have chosen differently in the past brings up feelings of guilt or regret. But at the same time, it can be unbelievably liberating. So let's explore how to honor our past, learn from them, and then consciously create the realities we want, no matter what came before. It might sound a little cliche to think that you are the author of your own story, but here's the truth in it. We often default to family expectations, social media trends, or even the loudest voices in our circles. But beneath it, underneath all that noise, is your own inner compass. When you think of it, that alone may feel intimidating. When you consider that at any point in your life, you've had the power to question or break free from what you've been told that you should do, you must do, you have to do, it doesn't mean that you go blame yourself for not doing it earlier. It means from this moment onward, you get to take ownership of your decisions. And some of that ownership is how we deal with memories of the past mistakes or hurts. When you feel the urge to improve and start looking back at mistakes, the mind will say, let's see what happened before so we don't repeat it again. And that's our mind's way of protecting us. The problem is what our mind focuses on is also what it creates. If we are constantly fearing a past mistake might happen again, we can unknowingly invite that same energy into our present. That's why it's so important to learn from your past without allowing yourself to be defined by it. You are more than your history. You are also the possibility of who you can become. And when it comes to choice, there is a difference between external guidance from a mentor or a conversation and the internal guidance from our intuition. That past experience can give us lessons that will serve us as seeds to help us grow. But if we look at it with fear, it can hold us back. And if we aren't quite ready to make a choice, when we stall that process, it's still making a choice. So what gets in the way? It's not as easy as saying you get to choose. Let's look at some of the internal barriers that might pop up for you. First, fear of judgment from others, worrying about what family, friends, or society will say if we break out of our old patterns. That holds us back so much. Next is the old self-doubt and imposter syndrome, questioning, am I good enough or strong enough to create this new reality? Then we take on responsibility for others. When we put others' needs ahead of our own, it's believing we don't have a right to prioritize ourselves. We can feel guilt over the past, realizing we could have changed sooner that might cause us to feel some regret or shame. And we can't let go of past experiences because our mind says, remember what happened last time, to protect us from failing or hurting again. And while we learn from those experiences, we also risk recreating them if we focus on them too intently. When you gain that awareness, it will help you move forward. You're not doomed to repeat those old stories. You have the power to write new chapters. I'd like you to pause for a moment, and here are some questions to prompt you to dig deeper. Where in my life am I coasting instead of making a conscious decision? Is there a past experience I'm replaying over in my mind where I'm dwelling on the fear that it might happen again? What lessons do I want to take away from that experience, but I don't want to let it to define my present or my future? Remember, if you're constantly fearing a repeat of the past, you might unintentionally fuel the outcome you want to avoid. But you can flip that script, honor the past, and choose a different way to move forward. Let's look how you might go about reclaiming your power. And before you start to choose, it's wise to have a filter for your decisions. It will come as no surprise to you that a good place to start is with your values. What do you value? Freedom, integrity, security, courage, generosity? These are some examples that you could choose. And then you ask, are my current decisions aligned with these values? Or am I operating based on a fear rooted in the past? The big realization is not making an intentional choice, is still making a choice. It's letting the old stories run the show. And you can use these values as a compass for where you want to go now versus an outdated script of who you used to be. Second, take small steps. You don't have to reinvent your life overnight. Choose one area. Maybe it's a morning routine or an after-work activity. Make it something that excites you rather one that seems more like an obligation. And when you start hearing that old voice reminding you, remember what happened last time? Thank it for the reminder, and then you turn the tables. I've learned from the past. I'm a different version of me now, and I can choose a new experience I want to follow. Third thing, think about people. There's nothing like the power of being in community and having the right people around to support you. Surrounding yourself with the right people allows you to see others who are thriving outside of the box you're putting yourself in. Look for community groups, online forums, or meetings with personal mentors that can reinforce the idea you can chart a new path. The next step is going to be a hard one for many people, and it's a 2-letter word with a lot of power. No surprise, the word is no. People pleasing is a huge barrier where you give away your power. And if you've been doing it for a while, it may take some practice. Each time you say no to something that doesn't align with your current values, you're saying yes to the new, more aligned version of yourself. And the last one to share is where the mind can really trip us up. One reason we reflect on past hurts or failures is that we hope to prevent them from happening again. And that's understandable. But if we obsess over them and get ourselves tied up in a knot, we risk bringing that unwanted energy into the present. Instead, honor that past experience for the lessons and growth that it brought, and recognize that you have evolved. You are not who you were back then. You have the power to choose a new perspective, a new outcome. And if you keep your focus on what you do want rather than what you fear, you'll naturally move toward creating the reality you've always dreamt of. Even when the world tells you this is the way to do it, you have a choice. Remembering that you don't have to do what you did in the past is a way to get the freedom you don't realize you have. Paralysis by analysis will lead you to a choice whether you want to or not. Face any guilt and regret you have to use that information moving forward. And what we learned is helpful, but leave it in the past. Focusing on it can bring it into the future. Because we know what you focus on, you will manifest. Choose to focus on what you do want instead of what you fear. I've got a few action steps if you want to play along. The first one is a reflection exercise. I want you to write down one past event you're afraid of repeating and ask yourself, what did I learn and how am I different now? So this will allow you to see how you've grown. Second, maybe you're a person who likes affirmations. So create an affirmation statement like this. I honor the past versions of me for all that they were. That is not who I am anymore. Today is the reality I live in now. This is who I am now, and I'm excited to let it go and have something better. And the third one is a practical action. Make one small choice this week that aligns with the person you are now, not who you used to be. And see if any of these that I've given you resonates with you. Let me know if it was helpful. So thanks so much for joining me today. What I hope you take away is recognizing the next time you're faced with a decision is to become aware you have a choice. And when that happens, you step into a whole new world of personal power. It may feel different when you find the freedom to become the author of your own story, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It's the first of many steps on the path to creating your legendary self. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much to me if you would leave a review on your podcast player or even on YouTube. And I'll see you here next week with another blind spot I've uncovered that have propelled many people into their next level life. See you here next week.